Sometimes in life, we have to start over. But what if the life you've lived so far, all of your career chapters, every pivot, every hard earned lesson, wasn't actually something that didn't mean anything for you, but actually it is the exact thing that is going to help you be really magnetic and grow in your next chapter, whatever that looks like. If you've ever thought it was too late to start again or wondered about how your past could actually fuel your future, and even what about what is actually right for you in your new path, this episode is for you. Today, I'm joined by Roh Doylida, an actor, teacher, business owner, and second career coach for women who are ready to turn their past into their power. She has got 30 years of professional experience across multiple fields. And what I loved about Roh is that she is so multidimensional. She has got so many different life experiences. She's the perfect person to talk about this subject, about reinventing herself. And now Roh helps women bridge the disconnect between who they were and who they're becoming by building personal brands that make sense, deeply resonate, and help them thrive. Now, I really resonate with this because I feel like I've had so many different lives. I lived the corporate life back in London. I fit into your stereotypical 9 to 5 box. Then I started traveling and I went away for many years. And then I came back. And then now I've moved abroad again and I've started my business. So I really resonated with everything Rose says. And I truly, truly believe that every experience that we've had in our lives is fueling us and setting ourselves up for our next chapter. So whether you're shifting careers, stepping into entrepreneurship later in life, or trying to make sense of everything you've done so far and how that's going to help you in the future, this conversation is here to remind you that you're not behind, you're actually just getting started. And I'm so excited for you to hear this and inspire you that it's never too late to pursue your dreams. It is never too late to do something that you want to do. So let's get into this episode and make sure you're ready for a major bit of inspiration.
Ro, welcome to the Right CEO Live podcast. I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. I have
Yeah.
actually watched quite a few of the episodes of your podcast, and I love it.
Oh
I
my God,
really do.
amazing. I love to hear that. I'm so happy you enjoy it. And you're calling in today from Chicago. So we are exactly a 12-hour time difference. You're over there, I'm here in
Exactly.
Thailand. So how is it over there? It's obviously going into summer now. So hopefully it's nice.
It's very warm. It is actually very warm here. It's been a little too warm, actually. But people in
Amazing.
Chicago like to complain about the weather.
For sure. Because you
So
get cold. I
that
know you
works
get
out.
really cold winters sometimes. So probably having
Really
a hot summer
cold.
is nice.
Yes, actually it is. It's been really nice.
Amazing. So today we're going to talk a little bit about transitioning into a second career, which I don't feel like is spoken about enough because I think we're sold this story when we're kids that we just like go into a job, work our way up the ladder, and that's kind of what society's expectation is of us. But actually, the majority of people, especially in the day and age that we live in now, have many careers, many different stories that they go through in their working life. So I'm really excited to have that conversation with you. And I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your backstory, what you do, where you've come from, and all of the careers that you've held.
Gosh, okay. So not to ramble. I don't want to ramble too much, but I started as an actor. I actually have a degree in acting, and I was on the Chicago stages for about 10 years, which I loved. But then I left that and I opened a gluten and dairy free bakery when my youngest son was diagnosed with celiac disease. And this was 23 years ago. And gluten free, nobody had heard those words. So now it's like everywhere. It was not at the time. And I couldn't buy him a birthday cake. And I thought, well, if I can't buy him a birthday cake, then no other moms can buy their kids birthday cakes. And that's how I got started doing the bakery. And I loved it. But when it finally closed, I was exhausted. I mean, my poor kids did not even get so much as a cookie for like a year. And I kind of stumbled around a little bit and I fell into teaching and loved it and went back to school for it. And I've been teaching now for years and it's wonderful. I love being in the classroom. But all of these different careers that I've had have been very fulfilling in terms of my soul, but not in terms of my wallet. You know, they just never made much money. Teachers make nothing, you know. So I was doing what everybody does, scrolling away on Instagram and Facebook, and I came across affiliate marketing. And I thought, well, I'll try. And So I got started and I was copying what everybody else was doing, and it was a complete flop. Went absolutely nowhere. And I think it was simply because I was just copying other people. It was not something I was connected to in any way, shape, or form. So I, again, bouncing around, trying to figure things out. I realized I wanted to coach, being a teacher, being an actor. I wanted to actually be communicating with people, but I didn't know what to coach people on. It's like a great idea. What are you going to do? And it was funny because I was starting to just get back in touch with a lot of old friends. And I was on Zoom with an old friend I hadn't seen for years. And I was telling him about what I'm trying to do. And he said, "Yeah, we're all doing that." And I said, "We're all doing what?" "Reinventing ourselves, trying to figure things out." And it was like, bong, the light bulb went off. And I went, yes. And everybody around me was actually saying that, but I hadn't heard it. And once I actually heard that, I thought, oh my God, I'd been doing a lot of personal branding, but personal branding for second careers. That was, that made so much more sense to me. But when the pieces really fell together and keep in mind, I didn't have anybody to guide me through this. I was really, sort of working this all out myself. But I was redoing my LinkedIn profile and I'm putting all of the different careers in there. And writing that bio, I needed to find the through line. I needed to find the story. And as I'm writing, it all became so clear. Everything I'd been doing gave me the skills to do this. And so many people, I talk to so many people and they all say, I'm starting over. But you're not. You're not starting over. You're adding lots of new skills, but you have all of this already inside of you that you can draw from. I mean, nobody else has my background,
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
so.
I love that.
Mhm.
You're not starting over, you're just starting new. That's a great way to put it. It's really good. So you were an actor, and I think that's so cool. Like I love theatre, right? Like that is like one of my favorite
Yeah.
like childhood pastimes. I loved going to the theatre. So that would have been like my dream job as a child, honestly. If I could act better, sing, if I was like a triple threat, that would have like literally been my dream job as a child, honestly. So you literally had my dream job. So that's so cool. When I realized that I couldn't really act, couldn't really sing, couldn't really dance, I moved on to something else, which I think, yeah, best for me and the rest of the world to not see me go through that. But super interesting the transitions that you made from being an actress to going into your own business. Obviously, like I assume you were mostly obviously probably self-employed with actress jobs. I don't know, or were you
Yep.
employed? You then start your own business, which is a whole new thing into entrepreneurship. It's not just you auditioning for things anymore. It's like, oh, I've got to make this work. And that was born out of your own pain point, which most of the best businesses are. And then obviously you went on to teaching. So what were you teaching? I'm so intrigued.
I still teach because I love it. Yeah. I teach early childhood education. I work with
Cool.
3-year-olds. So I
Wow.
do all the foundational skills, foundational social skills, foundational math and literacy, all of those building blocks, those pieces that once you have them, you can grow from them. But if you don't have them, there's always something missing. So I love doing that. And one of the really special things about it is that it really helped me to understand how to present material to different types of learners because everybody's different. Some people learn visually, some people have to listen to something. Personally, I have to write things down, and that's just me.
Mhm.
But being able to then meet every person that I work with where they're at, you know, I mean, most of the women that I talk to are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. This is usually sort of a later in life thing. So that you're learning differently at that point. And that's really important to not feel like I can't keep up or, you know what I mean? Or sometimes you read something and you just feel dumb because you don't get it. And you never want that.
I love that you've mentioned that about the learning styles, because I'm a kinesthetic learner. So I have to learn by doing, right? Which is to my detriment sometimes, because it means I have to fail a lot to actually learn what to do and actually get the best results. So I think like the traditional school system for me was really difficult because it doesn't always prioritize that learning style. It's very much reading, writing, listening. Whereas I was a doer. And now I'm reflecting, as you were talking, then I actually reflected back. And I was thinking that for some of my courses, like science, for example, I was put into a class that had to just do coursework. And I think now, as you were just talking about, like recognizing the different learning styles in people that you're working with, and knowing that everyone learns a different. I think if I reflect on that, probably my teachers did realize that I didn't learn by listening or reading or writing. I learned by doing, because they had me doing coursework rather than doing written exams, because they just knew that that wouldn't be where I was thriving. So super interesting you've mentioned that. And I think that's so important, particularly for coaches, course creators, service business providers, because you're constantly translating information, right, between either two people, teams, and one person, or different teams. And if you can't recognize that somebody doesn't learn in the same way that you do, there's always going to be miscommunications, lost in translation parts. So I love that you just mentioned that you take that not only in like your teaching career, but also into the work that you're doing within your coaching business as well. That's really cool.
Yeah, I found that really and truly everything that I learned all along the way, all these years, it's all here. It's all here. I mean, acting is about storytelling, communicating, making connections with people, reading the room, understanding what people are, their energy. Learn the business. When I opened my bakery, boy, did I learn a lot about marketing. My gosh, the importance of branding. I wish I'd known so much more about it then. If I knew then what I know now, right? But and then like we said with the teaching. So all of those pieces, I bring all of those pieces to this. And that's what I help other people to discover. What pieces do they have that they don't even realize? Because so many women, when they start over, they claim starting over. I should put it like this, right? They really feel like everything they've done before was completely disconnected. This is completely new. And it leaves you feeling like you don't have any credibility. And there's enough inner game challenges anyway when you start a new business, imposter syndrome, comparing yourself to other people, feeling a little embarrassed. Why don't I have things figured out yet? It seems to me like everybody else does. And then there's the big one, which is everybody thinks you're crazy. You just left a corporate job to go. I mean, I've got one lady, she left a corporate job to start a career organizing people's homes. And people tell her she's nuts. But that's her passion. And that's what she loves. And she actually uses so many of her corporate skills in her new business. It's really cool.
It's really cool. And we all have things, right? We all have strengths and weaknesses. We all have skills. We all have different passions that we can use and just learn how to pivot them. I think that's the key word there, is pivot. It's like use what we've got, but just use it in a different way. At what point, when you obviously were going through the different transitions, at what point did you realize that you were actually using your past and your present to make this into something for your future?
I think it was really when I was sitting and writing that LinkedIn profile. I started it was more self-reflective. And I started really looking, and the pieces all fell together. And it was truly, that was the aha moment for me. And I can't even explain what that feels like, because suddenly everything that was in my past, all the different pieces, are all part of me. I mean, we talk about wanting to be authentic. We talk about finding alignment. And a lot of those people don't necessarily understand what we mean by that all the time. But once you've connected all of these pieces together and found how all of them matter and all of them work together for you now, suddenly you feel aligned. You know what that feels like. And it's such a good feeling. It's such a relief, because when everything feels disconnected, you never feel grounded. You never quite feel like you know what you're doing or like you're doing the right thing. So once all those pieces come together, that's the alignment. And that's just, it's the best feeling.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like it's feeling like you are in alignment and you are in this true whole self. Like it really is the best feeling. And I guess you've been able to figure this out, like I say, through these very different careers, three very different careers. And I'm sure you work with a lot of women who come to you and they feel like they are stuck and don't really know like how to transition out of maybe their first career, maybe their second career, or they've not got the confidence. What do you think is the biggest thing that helps people successfully transition in between the career stages of their life?
I think the biggest thing is that self reflection piece where you go back and you look at this is kind of the first thing we do is we talk about all these different strengths that you have that you kind of don't even notice. So, what do people come to you and ask you about? What are you always the one who's asked to do something? What was a moment that you had in a previous career where you didn't think you could do it and then you did it and you thought, you know, damn, I got that. There are all these different little pieces. What are you most proud of? Is there something that happened? And it doesn't even have to necessarily be in your work. I raised a daughter who is such a strong woman, and she's one of my proudest accomplishments. And that I want to give that to other people too. So there are all these pieces. It's that self reflection piece that really, if you can really be honest about it, and sometimes that's why you need somebody else sitting with you, because when it's yourself, you think, oh, that was no big deal. But somebody else is there showing you that you're actually the hero of your story and all the things that you do that are so special. What do you value? I didn't even realize that I've been a caregiver. I've been service oriented my whole life. I took care of my mother who had cancer for 28 years. I started a bakery because my child needed something and I knew other children needed it. That value of being of service, people just take it for granted. They don't even see themselves. They just, oh, well, I just do that.
Yeah, it's true. And I love what you say there around you have to be self-reflective to understand like what you have to offer, basically. And so one of the exercises you just mentioned around like thinking about what do people come to you for, what are people asking you about, was actually one that I did in my most recent career pivot. So I pivoted out of my 9 to 5, if you like, which was all in the fashion industry. I then started a consultancy in the commerce world. And then in the past, like 9 months, a year, I've been pivoting more into coaching for online business founders. So when I was kind of having this moment of, I don't want to do e-commerce, mentoring and consulting anymore, it was like, right, well, what am I going to do? Like, and I really had this, like, and I think it was probably like September last year. And if you read my journal from that time, it's probably quite depressing, honestly, because it is very much like, oh my God, what do I do next?
True.
I have a business partner because I have a second business and she lives in Chicago actually. And she's just said to me, she's also a coach, and she just said to me, well, what do people come to you for usually? Like, what are the things that people are asking you about? And I'm like, or like, what do you get complimented on the most is one of the questions that she asked me. And I was like, that's so interesting that you're asking me that, because some of the recurring themes that I get is that I have accidentally given someone in a conversation, because I like to talk clearly, I've got a couple of podcasts, in a conversation, I've accidentally just dropped in there a nugget of wisdom that has maybe course corrected this person's life. And I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. But the generalized theme of all of these things that I'm dropping in there is like about balance or finding your true purpose in life, or your something to do with your well-being around like work. So I was like, okay, what does this mean? Like, if there's all of these themes, how can I put all of this together? But it was definitely from that level of self-awareness and those reflective questions that I came on to think, okay, this is what I need to do now. I need to do online business coaching for freedom seeking entrepreneurs and really help them through my own lived experience. This is something that I've been working on in the past 5 years to create the ultimate work life balance, to create freedom for myself. And I have it in so many different ways that I feel pretty qualified actually to talk about that. But when you get to that point and you're like, you just don't, there is a moment, and in that moment in time where you're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know how I can share this story, but you just work it out. You just put one step in front of the other. You get really self-reflective and it just suddenly comes to you. And in the past 9 months that I've been pivoting my business, I've had so many pivots within a pivot because there's so many things still unfolding that I'm like, wow, okay, like I can actually bring all of these old skills that I wasn't even using in my consultancy business and all of these new skills that I have acquired in the past 5 years of entrepreneurship and combine all of these things and bring something to the world. And it's finally materialized as a group coaching program, which I'm really proud of. But it took a long time to kind of come to these conclusions, and it was only from getting really, really self-reflective that I was able to look at that objectively and from like a bird's eye view and say, right, okay, this is the direction that it needs to go into.
Yeah. It's so true. And it's not easy. I mean, that's not easy. And it's not one and done. Like you said, your pivoting is pivoting. And that's okay. People think I should have the answer. Well, the answer evolves as you evolve. It grows as you grow. It learns as you learn. So what was right for you last year isn't necessarily in alignment with you this year. And that's okay. It's because you've grown. It's because you've moved on. It's because you've learned something. And that's always positive. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm a firm believer in lifelong learning, and that everything, whether it was the failure or like you were talking about, you had to fail in order to learn, those are so valuable. If we can take the judgment out of it, all that self-judgment, and just see the lessons in it, and then take that and move forward. Because, I mean, we all fail,
For sure.
we just do, but it's what we learn from it.
100%. It's like if we can take our failures as lessons and we don't get stuck and dwell on the mistakes or the failures that we've had or made, I think they can be so powerful to propel you forward because actually failures are data. It's data to tell you what is working and what isn't working. And I come from like a commercial buying background, right? So data is everything in that industry. So it was, if you can have the data, collect all of the data, you've just got more and more knowledge to make something even better than what you had before, honestly.
And that's why even when you're coaching, when you're writing programs or creating courses, you're always going to keep adding to it. It's never finished. And that's another thing is, people think I should have all the answers and then I can start. Well, that doesn't work because it's always going to evolve. There will always be more. So you have
Yeah.
to just start.
And you'll never have all the answers either. So
Never.
there's no point waiting, just get stuck in. That's so good. Yeah, it's super true. And do you what do you think about like as the biggest thing that holds people back from pivoting careers? Because in my perception of it, it's like a societal's expectation is like one of the biggest things I think that holds people back from thinking that there's any opportunity outside of their 9 to 5, for example, or outside of the career that they're currently in. Have you seen any other barriers that people go through?
I think for a lot of people, it's that embarrassment
Mm,
piece. They really do feel um, that people will judge them,
mhm.
especially if they try something and it doesn't work out. There's a real sense of, I don't want to tell anybody I'm doing this until I know what I'm doing. That's a big one. And then a lot of it is also fear of being seen. We're really taught, especially as women, to do what we need to do to handle everything. We should be able to handle everything, including, motherhood and work and, family stuff and friendships and, just everything in your life. You're supposed to be able to handle that. And you, none of us can. I mean, it's like you were talking about balance, finding that work-life balance. So a lot of women are so afraid of upsetting the balance, even if it's not good. Stepping out of your comfort zone is so, so hard. And being an entrepreneur means jumping out of your comfort zone. I mean, it just does. It's not really quite the same thing as, taking a different corporate job, going from one corporate job to another. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do, obviously. But if you really want to start this business that you've always dreamed of, or now you really feel passionate about, it's going to mean stepping outside your comfort zone. And that's so hard. It's so hard. And especially if you don't have support. A lot of women don't, and you only need one really supportive person, whether it's a partner, maybe it's a really good friend, maybe it's a mentor, whatever it is. But that one person can really make the difference so that you find the courage to jump.
It's true. I can definitely relate to that embarrassment one. I felt like when I was leaving my corporate career, I'd worked in it for 11 years. I'd worked my way up to quite senior as a buying manager at Burberry, managing a very big business. And it was a case of like, oh my God, what are my ex-bosses gonna think? Because they were so focused, tunnel vision on like climbing that ladder, getting to the top, being the CEO of the company, And it was like when I told them I was leaving, not that I actually didn't plan to start a business. That wasn't my intention of leaving the company, honestly. Like my intention was to go traveling, ironically. But then I ended up being forced into starting a business because of the pandemic. But as I just left the company to go traveling, that didn't bother me. That wasn't like an embarrassment thing. But then when I had to start a business, because obviously the fashion industry in the pandemic didn't exist because all the shops were shut. So obviously commerce was booming, but actually companies were making massive cuts. So I just felt like what are they going to think if I start posting on LinkedIn about this business that I'm building? They're going to think, haha, she shouldn't have left her comfortable job. She had a nice salary, and then off she went and decided to do her own thing. And now look at this, the pandemic's come, and now what's she going to do, kind of thing. I really felt this, like, it took so much for me to keep showing up. And I did show up on LinkedIn, and that's how I got most of my first clients. But it really did take a lot for me to be like, this is very uncomfortable. I'm getting way out of my comfort zone here in order to promote myself for this.
Yeah. I think that's actually really, really that feeling is so common, and it's unfortunately so debilitating. So that's where, you just need to know in your heart and in your soul that this is the right thing to do. And then you take that jump. You have to take the risk. You'll never know if you don't take the risk.
No. I had a conversation earlier, and we were saying about the only failure is really if you don't try, or if you just quit, like and you don't actually go after the dreams and the things that you want in life. And I think that there really is like power in just trying. Like, just try. If you try, you didn't like it, okay, cool. Like, you don't have to do it. You can go back to what you were doing before. Go back to your comfort zone. That's okay. But I think, how do you ever know if it's going to work for you unless you try? You just have to take a chance on yourself sometimes.
And I think once you can connect the fact that you have all of these skills, that you're not starting from scratch, you're not starting at zero, you have all of these skills already. So when you move into this next venture, you know that you've got credibility. You know that you've got skills. You're going to keep learning new skills, but you know that what you've done already is helping you move forward.
Yeah, exactly. You're not starting from zero. You're starting with a baseline, which is a really nice place to be. Or one of the things that I think people need when they're going through these experiences, or when they're trying to transition, is expansion. I think they have to see it to be true for themselves, see it to be possible for themselves in other people that they really resonate with or relate to, which is honestly why I talk so much about my own career and do this podcast in some ways, because I feel like people have to resonate with someone's story in order for them to be able to go and see that to be true for themselves as well. So do you have any examples of like of a client potentially that's kind of gone from one career and successfully transitioned into another one, just to give people some inspiration of like what the breakthrough moment might have been for them?
So I have a client, the one that comes right to mind is a woman who spent years nursing, and she was a nursing supervisor. And she also worked with veterans quite a lot. She worked in the Veterans Hospital, and she always dreamed of doing real estate. When she and her husband had bought their first house, they'd had a horrible experience. And she loves houses, and she always wanted to do that and become the person who other people could count on. And so we started working together right at the beginning of her career pivot. And she was really feeling very confused about, just about learning all these new skills and how does nursing help that at all? And then one day she was at work and a veteran walked in and he needed some help. And so she sat and talked to him. And then he told her he's actually looking for a house. And suddenly her two worlds opened up together because she knew all about the housing market and the financial help that veterans can get. So she knew everything that this man needed. Plus, being a nurse, she knew how to help him at the moment of crisis that he was already in. So suddenly everything came together. She wants eventually to have her own brokerage and to have people working under her. Well, been a nursing supervisor. She's been doing that same thing for years. She has all those pieces already. And now just seeing her stand in her own power is such a beautiful thing. To go from, I don't know, I don't think I can do this. Maybe I made a mistake to this is what I'm meant to do. And look what happened just this week. And it's so empowering for her and then for me. So it really is. I don't know. I just love it. I mean, even that woman who I mentioned, who is now doing the home organizing, she's using all of those corporate skills to, to first of all, deal with people. You're coming into their space. You're touching their stuff, helping them to see things in a different way. She's using all of these different skills that she already had. She's just using them in a new way.
And that's what it's all about, right? It's like using your skills, but just in a different way. That's exactly
Mhm.
everything that I teach also. And it's definitely something that I think more people can start doing. So if anybody that is looking to turn their past experiences, and there were some great examples, hopefully people are feeling quite inspired to go after their
I hope
desired
so.
career now. But for anyone that is looking to do that, like what's the first step that you normally advise clients to take in order to kind of push them in that direction?
So we start with that I call it the wisdom bridge because you're bridging your past and your present and you're bringing all your wisdom with it. And I have a whole system that we go through where we look at all of these strengths. We look at areas that need growth, things that you don't feel comfortable doing, whether it's social media stuff, maybe it's, whether it's posting on social media, creating any of that kind of stuff. People can be very nervous about that, having to show up and be seen. That can be very uncomfortable. And then we look for opportunities in the market. Where are the holes in the market? Like for me, personal branding. I know so many people who do personal branding, and our world is global now. Everything is global. So you and I are talking on opposite ends of the world. And so it's not just dozens of people doing what you do. It's now hundreds or thousands of people doing what you do. So what makes you different? What makes you special? Because obviously a personal brand or a brand answers 4 questions. Who are you? What do you do? What makes you unique? And why should anybody care? So finding that space that that you can leverage, discovering that I'm helping people not just create a personal brand, not just create a personal brand in their second career, but to marry the past to now their present and their future. That was a gap that I could fill. So that's a huge piece of what we do is looking at that because then you start to really define your offer. You understand what it is you offer and who it is you offer to. And we do really deep dives into who it is that you want to serve and what does their life look like and what is the transition that you can help create for them, help them create even for themselves. So, and it doesn't matter what the type of career is. You know, like I said, real estate, another lady in travel, doing travel business. It doesn't matter whether it's you're a holistic practitioner of some kind, whatever it is. Maybe you're a nutrition coach, maybe you're a fitness coach. Whatever it is that you want to do so passionately, you still need to understand who it is you're serving and what their life looks like right now and what the transition will look like for them. And then you need to learn their language. You have to speak it in their language so that you can inspire them and inspire that desire for the transition and hold that space where they can see that transition happen. So that's the beginning of the process.
Yeah, I echo everything you say there. I think that all makes perfect sense. It's all things that I work with clients on as well. So it's very very relevant, very great advice. Really appreciate you sharing that advice with the listeners. And just to summarize before we go, like one of my biggest values is creating freedom for myself. And I know that most people that start some kind of business are also looking for a level of freedom. So I always like to ask, what does freedom actually mean for you?
Freedom means getting to do the work that I want to do it on my schedule, and then to have that precious time with my family so that I can travel with them. I can be there for them. I have a grandbaby now and it's amazing. And so being able to have that time and take that time, that's freedom. That is true freedom for me.
Love that, and congratulations on becoming a
Thank
grandma.
you.
That's so cool. No, I echo that. That's amazing. And thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom, your experience, your insights about this subject on the podcast. If anybody wants to connect with you, how can they get in touch?
I actually have something for your listeners.
Amazing.
Yes. So I created this. Like I said, people get very uncomfortable when they start having to do social media. So this is really just 12 easy steps to teach you how to make your social media not look homemade. Just have a little bit more professional, which gives you more credibility and more authority. So even if you're doing ads or posts, whatever it is you're doing, just using these tips will make a huge difference. So I'd love to offer that to everybody who's listening or watching. And through that, you can also get to know me a little bit better. And if you want to, obviously talk to me about it.
Amazing. Yeah, we'll definitely share the link to that in the show notes. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. It's been so nice chatting to you. And I love everything that you've said. There's no limit on how many careers or jobs or businesses that how many times we can reinvent ourselves, basically.